Hello, in this video, we will discuss the Spectrum book, chapter 2, Advent of the Europeans in India. In this, we will cover the advent of the Portuguese, then Dutch, then French, and finally the English. And we will see also the Danish. And coming to the thing, the Europeans first came to India was the Portuguese. In the 15th century, at the end of the 15th century, the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama find the sea route to India and landed in India at Calicut on May 17, 1498 in 3 ships. Coming to the outer agenda of the Portuguese is just trade with India, but the inner agenda hidden in this is to convert the Indians to the Christianity and monopolize the then enormous trade of the East and excluding its competitors, mainly the Arabs. And the Hindu ruler, then the Hindu ruler of the Calicut is Jamorin. Literally, the meaning of the Jamorin is Lord of Seas. He accorded the friendly relations with the Vasco da Gama. After landing into the Calicut, Vasco da Gama visited other cities such as then Cochin and Canu, and finally returned to the Portuguese. This is the capital of the Portuguese, that is the Lisbon, in 1499 August. And this helped the Portuguese immensely securing the East Indian trade by establishing the sea route to India from the Portuguese. And just a minute. And coming to the then the status of the East world, that is near the Indian Ocean region, all these things, how it was occupied and all these things. And coming to the North India, the entire North India has been divided into small powers except the Gujarat, which is ruled by the Muhammad Begarha, who is the strongest ruler then. And coming to the Deccan, the Bahmani kingdom has been breaking up into smaller kingdoms. And in the Far East, the Chinese legacy only limited to the reach of the Chinese navigational ships. And coming to the Europe entrance, the Egypt is occupied by the Turks, that is the Arabs, and Persia. The Arab regime has been newly started there. That's why the main East Indian trade has been majorly controlled by then Arabs. And due to the Arab merchants, the ship owners dominated the Indian Ocean trade. By removing this, the Dutch want to monopolize the Indian trade. That's why Arab control the Egypt, Persia, and Indian merchandise, which is through the Europe, and it enters the Muslim intermediaries. Thus, Venice acts as the entrance for the Europe, acts as enjoyed the monopoly from the Orient, that is English countries. And coming to the Portuguese, then the prince of the Portuguese is Prince Henry. He is devoted his entire life in finding the sea route in India, and he died finally in 1460. The Henry is also known as the navigator of the Portugal for his exploratory enthusiasm. Under Prince Henry, Portugal explorer Bartholomew Diaz has been appointed by Prince Henry's permission and sailed through the river Senegal's mouth, which is in the West Africa, and reached finally the Cape of Good Hope, and failed to discover the India. That means he only reached up to the end of the African continent and then came back to the Portuguese. After him, 10 years later, in 1498, Vasco da Gama embarked the voyage to the India. And after Vasco da Gama, another Portuguese explorer, that is the Alvarez Cabral, who is also the discoverer of the Brazil, sent by the king of the Portugal with 13 ships along with him. but he picked up fight with the Arabs at Calicut, offending the Jamorin at the Calicut. Finally, the Cabral left the Calicut, securing a lot of merchandise from the Cochin and the Kannur, and he returned to the Lisbon with a lot of profits. Mm. On November 3, 1502, Vasco da Gama again came to India and established a factory at the Cochin. And coming to the governors of the Portuguese country in India, the first governor is Francisco de Almeida. He first appointed as the governor to India. His term is 3 years, appointed by the prince. He aimed to destroy the Muslim trade by seizing Aden. These are the states: Aden State, Ormuz State, and Malacca State. And he encountered the opposition from the Jamorin and the Mamluk Sultan of the Egypt. He fought with the Moors in North Africa and raised against this. However, in 1507, a big hurtle has been came to Almeida. This is he defeated by the combined forces of the Egypt and Gujarati navies. A naval fight which occurred off the Dayu, where Almeida has been destroyed, and later in 1508 he defeated again by the combined navies of he defeated the both combined navies and won the war. In the first war where he defeated means in this war he lost his son. And coming to the second governor, Albuquerque. The strategy of this governor is strategy for expansion, and he is the second Portuguese governor with a much bigger strategy. He is the strongest governor in the history of the Portuguese in India. He secured strategic control of the Portuguese of Indian Ocean by a strong holding the east, and he occupied so many things such as East Africa, Red Sea, Ormuz Strait, and Malabar, and all these things have been occupied. The major factors in his strategy are combating Islam and spread Christianity, securing the spice trade in the East, and empire establishment to the Portuguese. And he introduced a permit system which is called as the Cartes system, for which he is known as the strategy of him is known as the this Cartes system has been already introduced by the D. Almeida. He only popularized the Cartes system. That's why for the introduction of the Cartes system, D. Almeida is now policy is known as the Blue Water Policy. And coming to the other things, the non-availability of the timber in the Gulf and Red Sea for shipbuilding also helped him. And he acquired Goa in 1510, which is the first Indian territory occupied by a European since the Alexander time. And 1511, he take away Malacca in just a fight of 10 days, and 9 days. And the Malacca state has been controlled by the Portuguese for 130 years. A trading post has been established at Spice Islands and Moluccas Islands. And he raided Aden in 1513, but it is not that much successful, but he influenced the things there. Before 1515, that is the death of him, he overran the Ormuz Strait and built a fort there. He encouraged taking of the Indian wives. That's why the conversion of the Christianity can become easy way. And his policy, the serious drawback is bitter persecution of the Muslims. In this religious perspective, he failed. And coming to the other governor general, that is the Nino da Cunha. In November 1529, he elected as he appointed as Viceroy of the Indian, the first Viceroy of the Indian. The before two were the governors. He is the Viceroy. And 1530, he shifted the Portuguese headquarters from the Cochin to the Goa. That means The first Portuguese headquarter is the Cochin, then shifted to the Goa. And Bahadur Shah of Gujarat, who is having conflict with the Humayun regarding the island of the basin, by fearing Bahadur Shah of Gujarat complained to the Portuguese and wanting to take the help of the Portuguese for the establishment of his control over the island of the basin, with the fear of the Humayun expansion. But Humayun has been taken away from this Gujarat. For this reason, he put away the Portuguese, and he raised against the wall against the Portuguese. The Portuguese somewhat get anger by this situation, and he was brought into the Portuguese ship and killed there. And but that's why the Bahadur Shah of Gujarat has been killed by the Portuguese in his era. The Don Kunha attempted increase in influence in the Bengal by settling the Portuguese nations near the Hooghly as headquarters in the north. That means the headquarters of the Portuguese in the east has been established in the Hooghly region. And coming to the administration of the Portuguese, the head of the state is the viceroy. This viceroy is assisted with the secretary in the initial years and council for the late years. The term of the administration is 3 years term for the viceroy. And in the place of viceroy, in the initial years, there was governor. And second office is the Vedor da Fazenda, who is responsible for the control of the revenues, cargoes, and dispatch of the fleets in the navy. And captains who control the forts from Africa to the China in the colonies of the Portuguese. Councilo da India, which is also called as Council of India, has Portuguese colony. Coming to the establishment of the Portuguese in India, in the west coast, they are Damandayu, Shaulshesti, and Goa and Kochi. And coming to the east side, Madras, which is called as Saint Tom, and Chittagong in Bengal, Chittagong and Hooghly in Bengal. These are the establishment of the Portuguese in India. Coming to the cause of the decline of the Portuguese in India, the competition from the Dutch English has been who conquered the monopoly of the eastern trade. In 1631, Qasim Khan of the Mughal conquered the Hooghly, who established their headquarters in the east. That's why Hooghly has been lost by the hands in the hands of the Portuguese, and it taken away by the Mughals. And the emergence of powerful dynasties in the Egypt, Persia, North India, and rise of Marathas, the major opposition has been come to the Portuguese, and religious policy of the hatred persecution of the Muslims become one of the hurdle. And the importance of the Goa port declined due to the fall of the Vijayanagara Empire in 1565. The Marathas occupied Salsette and Basin Islands in 1739. By this, somewhat the Portuguese become more weaker. The Basin Island now is referred to as Vassal Island. In 1661, Bombay was given as dowry to the British Prince Charles by the Portuguese prince by marrying the daughter of the Portuguese prince. They were only left with the finally Goa and the Damandayu, that's all. In till 1961, they possessed these just two areas. And discovery of the Brazil has been another shift for the west for this Portuguese. And what is the significance of the Portuguese in India means emergence of the naval power and system of drilling of a group of infantry, that is the conduction of the exercises for the military groups, and improved technicacy and building of the multi-decker ships and tobacco cultivation. These things, the tobacco and other some of the crops has been introduced by the Portuguese only in India. And 1556, India's first printing press at Goa has been started. The first book printed on Indian medicine is the Garcia de Orta. And coming to the triangle trade of the Portuguese, what is this all about means? This is the African continent, and here is the American continent. Here is the Portugal. From this, the goods from the final goods from the Portuguese or from the Europe has been taken into the Africa and shipped there, and they were uh, sell there, and from this they bought the slaves and raw materials for their purpose, and the slaves has been left in the American continents for their plantation purpose, and other final goods and raw materials has been taken away to the Portuguese again. This is the triangle trade of the Portuguese, and this all about the advent of the Portuguese in India.